Hi, welcome back to the A&S Way with me, Sel and Ant.
And a brand new position.
I know, exciting. And we're out in the open, which is something we have not been able to do here in Vegas.
5 months?
Yeah.
So what we're here for today, Sel?
This is pretty much a follow-up to our more recent videos and something that we've said we would do for quite a while, but it's taken us some time to get there because we've been learning over the last 8 months of living here. But this video is going to be a dedicated video on the cost comparison for us when you compare the UK to the USA and specifically living in Las Vegas.
Yes. And we want to start off the video. We want to thank people. So thanks to our new subscribers, and even those of you that haven't subscribed but have watched and commented. On one of the recent videos, somebody commented about what you said isn't true, because if you look at what happened in 2008, or if you look at what happens in California, California's more. What we want to get across to people that are new to the channel, this is about our specific experience. Now, you could completely copy us, or you could do something completely different. We've had new friends that we have that have moved from Asia somewhere to Las Vegas because they saw and thought, let's give it a go. If you choose to move to California, of course it's going to be different because your tax is going to be different, your cost of living is going to be different. So we are just explaining our experience in the UK, where we lived in the Southeast, to our experience moving to Las Vegas, USA.
I think we have anyway across all of our videos tried to get that across, but we do appreciate now that we've hit our 1,000 subscribers and there's more of you, that not all of you would have watched the previous videos. So we just really wanted to get that point across, that this is, everything that we share is unique to our experience, and this particular video is exactly the same.
So this video is really going to cover off a lot of the basic fundamental stuff of cost of living. For example, your utility costs, your rent, your mortgage, home prices. Again, I know we've just said it, remember, this is our experience of living in the particular areas that we have lived in. You also have to understand that it can't be a direct comparison, because a 4-bed home where we live might be 1,100 or 1,200 square foot, and a 4-bed home might be 2,500 square foot. So we are just giving an example of what we had there versus what we have here. So should we get into the video?
Yeah. So the first thing we will state is when we're doing this comparison, we were living in the southeast of England, specifically in Kent, not too far, how far from London, central London?
40 miles.
Yeah.
Not in the most desirable area at all. We specifically bought there because it's an up and coming area, and it still is, and it was cheap enough for us to buy. So the price differential between where we were originally and that place might have been a couple of $100,000 for a similar home, just to give you some perspective over where we chose to live.
Yeah, and I would really pay attention to that point, because in that sense it isn't like for like. We are living in probably one of the nicest areas you could choose to live in Las Vegas, in Summerlin, and then within Summerlin.
Yeah.
That is definitely not the case in the UK. So again, it's not a like for like, but the difference is we can afford it here. We would have never have been able to afford it in the UK.
Exactly right. The basis that we're starting from is a 4-bed home in the UK, 2.5 bathrooms, and it was 1,410 square feet to be exact, so around 1,400 square feet.
It was a detached home, as Anton said. It wasn't in the nicest area. It was very much an up and coming place where lots of home builders were going to, and it was okay.
The house was really nice, the area's okay. It's one of the cheaper areas that you can buy in that part of Kent, or southeast of England.
Yeah, and we were, with this particular developer as well, we had two tandem parking spaces. Again, if you come from the southeast of England, you'll know sometimes getting parking is quite hard for 2 cars. And then the overall plot of land was very small. Our garden was
it was tiny
as well.
Although probably not that small in comparison to what you get here, to be fair. It was probably a bit bigger than definitely bigger than what we have here. Vegas for some reason has small yards. And then the comparison on the US side is a 4-bedroom home, 3.5 bathrooms, I think. I don't know, I don't count them. It's 2,700 square feet and double garage, double parking. a lot bigger overall size. So we've mentioned it that it's not a direct comparison, but bear that in mind when you're hearing about the utility costs and the costs of the home versus the cost of our home in the UK. Okay, let's start the cost comparison with rent or mortgage. So in the UK, we had never rented and have never rented a property. We owned our property. However, we can give a reasonably good cost comparison because it is now rented out to a tenant. We still own that property. We rent it out to a tenant. And it is how much?
That in dollars would be $2,100.
Yes, so 1,400 square foot, not a particularly desirable area, $2,100. Here, we pay $3,400 per month here. Now, we have rented this. Our home in the UK was rented out before all the prices peaked, and we rented this out at about the peak.
Yeah.
So bear that in mind. If we would have done this a couple of years ago, it'd probably been around the 3,000 mark. So there's only maybe a $900 difference, but you've got a home that is over 1,000 square feet bigger, a lot more private and in the most desirable area.
Yeah, I would say overall what we're getting for the money, even though this is more money, you get so much more for it. We have the pool, the space, the location. To have that in the UK, my belief is it would be definitely a lot more.
Yeah, just factoring in, if you take not the most desirable, but some desirable areas such as Chislehurst, in the southeast, you're probably going to be paying around £4,000 or more.
So next we have the electricity costs, and this is a funny one because only this week I was on a forum and there was a bit of a debate going on around the cost of living in the US versus the UK, and there was a British guy mentioning that he pays around £250 in the UK. There's no way you guys are paying that in the US. And people in the forum were like, no, that's not the case. Electricity does cost more here. And to give you an example of what we were paying in the UK, we were paying on average consistently around $69 per month. Now, it's taken us a good few months to get to understanding our costs here. And the first thing is that we have air conditioning. We've got the heat, the extreme heat that we've had for months, not the 2 months, and only now has it just dipped. So the electricity bill has been changing across that period.
I should add in, our home in the UK we bought brand new in 2015. It's a new build with all of the modern building techniques and insulation. So we did have quite low costs, and we know this because my parents' home, which was built in 1910 or 1920, not dissimilar in size, would require about 2.5 times as much fuel, so electricity and gas. But in our particular case, it's a new build, so we had the benefit of that. This home, however, was built in the 2001, so it's a much older construction with worse air conditioning than you would get nowadays. However, that's the only comparison that we can give to you. So what do we spend?
So currently, and we have just mentioned at the beginning of this video how the temperatures have dropped, so we are now finding that our electricity bill is around the $100 per at each month at the moment. However, in the height of summer, that was closer to $280 to $300 per month, so a significant, like more than 3 times.
Yeah, and to add to that, we run our AC high, so it doesn't kick in until it gets to 78 Fahrenheit, and we know from your colleagues and friends, some people run it 75, 76, so they're obviously using a lot more. So where we're paying 300, they might be paying 400. So the reason why we've had to wait quite a while is we needed to get quite a good average. When we moved in April, it was, again, because it was just warming up, we were spending around the $100 mark. So now we have a good idea that outside of summer, it's about $100 a month. Through the summer, you're going to be paying at least $300 a month in a similar type home. Gas is next up. Now, homes are very different, even in the UK. Some homes are mostly electric. Some homes where they have electric heaters or storage heaters, which use electricity and not gas. I prefer gas-powered central heating, and our homes have been gas-powered central heating. So again, your mileage may vary, but for us, gas-powered central heating plus a gas hob rather than an electric hob, I think we were paying around $45 a month, around that. It's relatively cheap, and bearing in mind it's cold most of the time in the UK, and bearing in mind I have my heating I think set to 23 all year round, so if it ever dips below that centigrade, the heating comes on, so it's very, very cheap for gas in the UK. The US, again, I think places are very different, and we've noticed that the gas has started to creep up now, and my thoughts are, I think the AC units are also gas, I'm guessing. Somebody let me know in the comments, because as it's gone into winter, there's a couple of things. When heating comes on, it comes out of the air vents. It's central heating because it comes from one central location, but you don't have radiators. It comes out of the vents. You can smell it. That was the first giveaway. And I think you mentioned, like, it smells like something's burning.
Apparently it's something to do with the dust
in the
particles or something when it changes.
Yeah, vents and filters. And the second part is you hear what sounds like a pilot light and then a flame come on. So I'm assuming it's gas powered, and the fact that our gas has gone up. However, the average over the months from April to now has only been around $30 to $35 per month. And we do have a gas hob here, so it is probably a little bit cheaper for us.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure though that it's not also due to we cook a lot less here as well. There's other lifestyle factors possibly which could be the reason. I have no idea with how the aircon is working.
I think you're probably right. It is cheaper because we're paying less, but I think you're right, we cook less than we would do at home, and that's probably the difference of the $5 to $10 a month. I think going through the winter, which we haven't done, we'll see whether that creeps up at $10 or $20, because if it does, then we know it is definitely gas powered if nobody lets us know, and that'll probably make up the difference of what we're doing at home. The gas is on longer at home generally.
So the next thing in terms of our home utilities and costs, we have internet prices, and in the UK for 100 megabits we were paying around $39, and it's always been pretty good actually at trying to get the best service.
Yeah, in some cases we were paying, I think, about $25. We got a really good deal. You match up with your mobile provider, same service, and it dropped it down to about £16 or £17 a month. But there's lots, as you said, lots and lots of different ways you can make your internet. Even when we had 1 gig up, 1 gig down, which is about as fast as you're going to get into your home, we were paying £38, so $48, $50 maybe for that.
And that's the key thing, that one of the things we noticed when we moved here was the number of providers. They were very limited. In fact, we only had a choice of two
internet providers, yeah.
Whereas in the UK, that's not the case. There are so
Unlimited.
Many that you can go for. So you really can shop around for a good price and package based on your internet needs, which is not an option for us here. Like for like, we are paying closer to $65 here, so you can see that the price is a lot more, but also we're not getting the choice and selection that we had in the UK either.
That's a good point. Something that we forgot to mention is you don't get a choice in your utility provider.
Oh yeah.
Now, I don't know whether this is the same across the US, but here you are with Southwest Gas. That's it. And you are with NV Energy. That is it. At home, you have a choice of at least 5, I can't name them all now, but at least 5 different providers. Now, the prices don't vary that dramatically, but the offers that they give you when you sign up can, or they might reduce the exit fees, or they give you £100 Marks and Spencer's voucher or something like that. So you get to move around and maybe save a couple of pence per kilowatt as you do that change, or you can lock in a price for a year or 2 years, whereas here, you don't have options. You just have, this is your provider, this is how much it costs. At least that's what it's been in our experience. So to finish off the kind of home stuff, this is now going to be if you were to purchase a home. And we've done it at the current prices and tried to make it as fair as possible. So our 4-bed home in the UK is currently worth about $630,000. Again, it's 1,400 square foot, relatively small in comparison to here, not in the most desirable area. Whereas this home here, around the $650,000 mark, nearly twice the size in the most desirable area. So you get to see that, okay, you might not be saving a huge sum of money, but for the same money that you're putting out, you're getting a lot more. A lot better quality of life, a lot more home, a much nicer area.
Yeah, I think for us in the UK, in the southeast of England, for us to get something that we would have liked, and I'm not saying it would have been an equivalent of this.
We looked at one, didn't we, that we loved,
Yeah,
apart from the
we
road.
did.
So some of the ancillary, I don't know, I'm not that great at English, ancillary stuff that benefits your life, that we hope some of you are at least doing. Gym memberships in the UK are plentiful and really cheap. You can have some of the standard ones, you can pay as low as £13. I think I paid for two, not £13 for two, it's £13 per month for the first 2 years, and it went up to £20 per month. You can go into the £30 bracket, you can go into the £60 and £100. But the majority of specialised, really good gyms, and we're going to shout out Core, the gym. Hopefully somebody from there watches. I think it was around, what would it be, around
About $48.
$45 to $48
per month that we were paying each.
Super specialised gym, amazing, and is quite comparable to some of the gyms that people have out here. And the comparative price for something similar here is how much, though?
Almost $200 per month.
It's outrageous.
Yeah. We kid you not, you are literally looking at anything, I would say maybe the lowest $180 per month, but really up to about $200 depending on how great the gym is in Summerlin.
Yeah, they're outrageous prices, and not really for this video, but I waited until it was months before Planet Fitness opened so I could just pay what did I pay, $24 a month. But everybody knows Planet Fitness is very basic.
Yeah, and that is literally as cheap as it gets. Whereas in the UK, you do really have a really good selection of gyms from the cheap to the high end. And I said up to $200 for Summerlin. That's not the case. It's actually across Vegas. So if you want to go to somewhere like Lifetime, that is the price you're going to be paying across Vegas, which is a lot of money. Also, to give some other kind of comparisons, in the UK, I was going to CrossFit and I was paying about £85, so that's about $125 per month for me to go to have an unlimited membership with CrossFit. And that's actually on the slightly cheaper end. So perhaps in the UK, the closer you get to London, you would pay $125 to $150. And here I did look into it, it's a minimum of $150, closer to $180-ish, depending on which CrossFit gym. And also any of those kind of specialised, Orange Theory, I go to somewhere called True Fusion where they do all these classes, it's all around that $150 mark. Which is a lot, and it was a bit of a shock when we came here, and
it's a mindset thing. So you have to get over these mental hurdles you have as an English person. You have quite a lot of your services are cheap, and when you come here, even though your salary might be high, you might have more in your bank, you don't just instantly switch off how much you expect to see. And when you see a number that looks like it's got a 1 at the beginning before the price, so I'm looking for £30 and they're telling me 130, it's, you're like, whoa, that's too much. But we've explained in another video, your salaries and take home is considerably higher, so you have to kind of factor in, you've got to pay for the services somehow. Fast food meals, everybody loves them, even if we pretend that we don't. It's fairly cheap in the UK. I think food overall is fairly cheap in the UK, whether you're talking about groceries or definitely eating out, whether it's fast food or a sit-down meal. I would say it's around, and obviously it varies, depends on where you're going, but around $6.90 to maybe $7.20, $7.30 for a complete meal, fries, burger, drink. Here it's very expensive, even if you're just getting a single patty, so just a plain burger, some fries and a drink. It's well over $9, and depending on where you're going, it could be $11 for that meal, so it's quite a bit more. When you're eating at fast food, I have never tipped. I don't think it's a thing, tipping at fast food, so you're fine. But what you do need to factor in is if you're eating at something that's slightly better, so you might go and get a rice plate, or you might eat at, we have a lot of Mexican places that do Mexican bowls. You are expected to tip. there. So it might cost you $11, then you need to add your 20% on. So there is quite a big differential, I would say, between the cost of eating fast food type in the UK versus the US.
So I have something to ask here. So Ant's just mentioned about these places. So we're not talking about necessarily these sit-down meal restaurant places
where we'd always tip.
Where you would always tip. Even in the UK, we do tip for service. But here, even when you're getting like takeout at these kind of, they're fast food, but not as fast food. They're
and
kind of nice
kind of
places.
serve you behind the counter, but they're not serving you.
And then you literally take your food. You might sit at the table there, or you might go, and they always request a tip. So our neighbours here have said if they're taking the food and going, they will never put a tip ever for that. So we
were tipping.
We were tipping, but we're still not 100% sure. So for our American viewers, or those of you from the UK that have moved, let us know, because what do you do in those cases? I'd quite like to know what the stats are and what most people do. Do you feel obliged, or like you're looking around and you're embarrassed? So you just put
some number in. I bet you it depends on the state. I reckon it's different, but it'll be interesting to know, because the people who told us don't tip are actually from the US. They're from California. So we were like, okay, if they're not, maybe that isn't the dumb thing. Maybe it's really cheeky. We're not sure. So we always tend to leave something.
Yeah, and they have this system now where it's like this iPad system where it just tips forward. So you don't even have to calculate it. It's all kind of laid out very nicely for you.
You just press the button.
To press the button, and you kind of feel that you should be anyway.
Dining restaurants. So this is the sit-down type restaurant. Again, I think there is a bit of a difference here, and it will vary depending on the level of the restaurant, as it does everywhere in the world. But I would say a direct and fair comparison, if we were to go out to an Italian in the UK, we might spend $90 for 2 people having a starter, a main, and then maybe a couple of soft drinks. You don't really drink that much. Whereas exactly the same here might cost you $120 plus a tip. So you've then got to factor in another $25 maybe on top of that. So I would say dining out here in Las Vegas, and our experience in most of California, is a good percentage more than most places in the UK. Now, of course, if somebody's going to say, well, if you eat here in the UK, some really expensive places more, yes, same here. You can spend $300, $500, $1,000 on a meal for 2 here quite easily, but just trying to give a standard of when we do go out and eat.
And I would say in that sense it is very like for like, because where we have lived in the UK, depending on like the food options, you can eat as cheaply as you want, but as lavishly and as expensive. And we have found exactly the same here, that you have the cheaper end and also the far more expensive end.
Fuel, one of the most important parts of all of our lives, because you're always filling your car up, you've always got places to go, and it's expensive everywhere in the world. Now, obviously, fuel fluctuates even in one location. At the moment, it's quite expensive in the UK, and when we were there, it was quite expensive in the UK. Now, we've had to standardize this and use the standard US gallon. So for people in the UK, our gallon is different to the US, so I've just standardized it and used the US gallon. We pay about $7.10. And I know if you're up north, it'll be a little bit less. If you're in the southeast, it's going to be a little bit more. If you use premium, it's going to be a little bit more, but around $7.10 per US gallon. Here, we are currently paying about $3.85 per US gallon. That's quite high at the moment. It did creep up to the $4 for a little bit, but when we arrived here, it was around $3.20.
Yeah, much cheaper.
It was a lot cheaper for the fuel, but even still, it's nearly half. No, it's not exactly half. It's nearly half of the cost here compared to the UK. Now, depending on how much driving you have to do for your job or your family, that can have a massive impact on your life, because a lot of people do spend a lot of their salary on fuel.
So kind of linked to the car aspect of your fuel, next we have car insurance. And in the UK, the first thing I'm going to mention is that we had quite a nice car in the UK. We had a BMW M2, brand new sports car, and that insurance for the entire year, fully comprehensive car insurance for both of us, was $685 for the year. And this was quite shocking to me, because I guess when you're used to a certain price in a location, you will expect variances of a certain percentage, but what you don't expect it to be is so far like so far out in the price. So when we came here in March of this year, we obviously had some issues because we had to find one insurance provider that would do it on an international license.
Yeah.
We found one, and we also found out that the price that we're being charged for an international license is no different to had we have had a US license.
And I was going to, good you mentioned that. The reason we know that is because I thought the reason the price was so high was because we had an international license. So we started speaking to everybody. We were speaking to the DJ. He's like, oh no, that price is quite good. He's like, you're actually getting a good price. Mine's more than that. I was like, oh wow, so this is the real price.
Yeah, so here we have a BMW X5. How old is the car?
6 years old now,
6
years.
And we are paying here for the entire year $2,200 for the year. It is a bit strange here though, because you pay it
6 month
blocks.
It's very weird. And again, that seems common. We've spoken to people and our friends here who have just bought their own car. It's like, it's 6 months. It's weird. It's like, yeah. And they're also paying a massive premium. I think nearly $2,000 per 6 months. It is expensive here. Very expensive. And the response you generally get is, well, it's Vegas. There are drink drivers. There are drunk drivers. Same difference.
Yeah. It's like,
drunk drivers.
there could be a difference.
Drink drivers.
Who knows?
There could be the ones actively drinking, and there's a lot of accidents. So you can't fight it. It costs what it costs, really.
Yeah, and we were told it's because of Vegas. But when I've asked other colleagues in different states, and I want to be specific, we are talking about our prices here in Vegas, but I asked somebody in Florida how much they're paying, and they said, oh no, that sounds about right.
Wow.
So I'm not entirely sure. If there is a difference, maybe we are paying a little bit more, maybe 10% more than other places, but I'm hearing from others in different states that actually what we're saying sounds pretty normal.
Yeah, so you're going to be paying a lot for your insurance. It's one of the most, and because it's every 6 months as well, and we pay ours off, we just pay it. It seems like so much money so often, it seems to come around really quickly, and you're paying them $1,100, and then 10 minutes later that we need our $1,100 again. So we paid it twice, and it doesn't feel like we've been here.
No, and the one thing I forgot to mention is that we actually had 2 cars in the UK.
Yeah.
So what we were paying combined, so I think yours was about $600.
Yeah, about 600 is slightly less.
So between, and that was a BMW M140 sports car again. So we had 2 cars, and that combined is still cheaper for 2 cars to insure in the UK compared to one older car here in the US.
And our last caveat, because we just said off camera, we feel like we have to caveat everything because everybody's got this example of where this doesn't work, is we understand that depending on your area, if you live in central London, you're going to be paying a lot more. We lived out in, it's not remote, it's miles out of the way, but in an area that didn't really have particularly high crime rates, especially for car theft. It was in a new area as well, which there wasn't many logged crashes or incidents, so it was a little bit cheaper. But even when we moved to a lot more populated area, it didn't go up any. So we know it's based on your demographic, your age, your location and all of that, but I think we've got a fair idea, and we've also insured cars back when we did live in London.
Yeah, I was going to say we have in like high crime areas as well in London.
And it's not been anywhere near this. The only time we've experienced similar pricing was when you first pass your test. When you're 17, 18, 19, 20, you might pay $1,500 to $2,500. I know it's a lot more for people now, but in our generation, maybe around that. But of course, my first car was a sports car that I bought, a little hot hatch. I'm 20 years old. You expect to pay that, not when you're 35, 36, living in a nice area. You're not expecting to pay $2,200 on insurance.
So going through that list, we haven't done an exhaustive list of all the things, and you guys might not go to the gym or care about gym prices, but we just tried to give you a selection of different things that we have picked up on in the last 8 months. Overall, we would say most of the things do cost more here for services, especially like utilities, services cost. The only things that are cheaper here was fuel
And your housing costs, if you were to do like for like. I think if you get a 1,400 square foot place here, it will be less than, and especially if you move out of Summerlin, it's going to be considerably less than it would be in the UK. But those are the only 2 things. The rest of it is more money. However,
And we have mentioned this in our previous video where we kind of talked about the random facts of living in the US, but also on some advice on where to pick. And it's something that we picked up on is the salaries. Overall, a like-for-like job is paying you more in the US compared to the UK. And also, if you pick a place like Nevada where there are lower taxes, you are taking more home per month, which means
overall you keep more in your bank or your stocks, whatever. You have more disposable income to do whatever you want with. So although you might look at these things and say, well, that's more, why would you move there? No, it's the overall impact that you have. So if your salary is higher, you keep more of it. But a couple of things, 4 or 5 things are 15% more, but in actual fact, at the end of that, you've got 15% more left in your bank account, and the quality of life has gone up. For us, it's definitely considerably increased. I wake up smiling nearly every day. I drive looking at the mountains smiling. I was never happy.
No, he was not.
I'd be so unhappy. I wanted to put the unhappiness. So I'd phone Selena on my drives home to share my unhappiness.
Yeah, we might share a bit more of our journey story in another video, but it's true. You know, those things do add up, and that's what we're trying to get across when we share our journey and the impact to us. So I believe we're trying to be quite, I don't know, neutral-ish to us, but we're not obviously saying that's going to be how it is for you. It is very dependent on your situation, what you like, your careers, your salary. And I do feel like we have to caveat ourselves a lot right now. I feel like we have to caveat everything now.
Yeah.
With a thorough explanation. Who's going for $90 meals all the time? My friend Joe down the road doesn't get that.
Yeah, but that's what they do. I don't get paid.